really about to do it?
40 acres and a mule. This is bigger than the music.
You really about to do
You
it?
see, they put the houses up, but you can't move into it. What is good? What is good, ladies and gentlemen? I am your boy, Seven Blackman, and welcome to another episode of The Blackman Show presents Society Breakdown. And today, I think it's important that we talk about a somewhat sensitive subject that may touch a little close to home, if you get my drift. But before we go any further, let's hit that intro. Now, coming fresh off my last episode last week, and I apologize that I'm late this week because, listen, it's like I put out the episode. As soon as the episode went out, flu came and hit my entire house. I am happy that if I sound different, I apologize, but I'm still in slight recovery mode. I don't think anything transfers through the digital, so I think y'all are fine. But I'm just saying, it was bad. It was bad out here, and we're still recovering, but we're a whole lot better, thanks, and knock on all the woods, for real. Anyway, so coming off fresh off the last episode, though, just in time for Black History Month. I think it's still Black History Month, right? Thank you. Okay, so I thought that I'd take a second to talk about nobody's favorite, generational wealth. And, you know, one of the best ways, I'd say one of the best ways in America that things can be passed on, or that you can pass on wealth especially, is through the transfer of assets. And your home is generally one of the easiest assets through which you can do it. But that's only if you allow access. So many of y'all may have heard of a thing called redlining before, and if not, hey, you're about to get a whole lesson on it today. I'm just letting you know that right now. So, but redlining is one of the most effective government-backed segregation devices ever used. It's like, basically, they had I guess you could look at it like playing Monopoly, where everybody else gets to own something and all you get to do is pass go and pay rent.
If I right now decided that I wanted to play Monopoly with you, and for 400 rounds of playing Monopoly, I didn't allow you to have any money, I didn't allow you to have anything on the board, I didn't allow for you to have anything. And then we played another 50 rounds of Monopoly, and everything that you gained and you earned while you were playing that round of Monopoly was taken from you. So for 400 rounds of Monopoly, you don't get to play at all. Not only do you not get to play, you have to play on the behalf of the person that you're playing against. You have to play and make money and earn wealth for them, and then you have to turn it over to them. How can you win? How can you win?
And just keep going around paying rent. And you know, that's a way to play. I mean, if you just keep landing in the right spots, maybe you just know how to roll like that, and you just hit that community chest, and the chances and all that, somehow everything works out for you. But it's never worked out for me. I had two older brothers that was cutthroat, and when it came to Monopoly, trust, they did not play. If you ain't own nothing, you wasn't gonna own nothing. So I can only imagine what it was like back in the 1930s when this was happening in real life. You dig what I'm saying? But again, so for those of y'all who are unaware of what it is, redlining was the unofficial official policy where banks, real estate agents, and even the United States government decided who could and who couldn't buy homes and where. I mean, like, and it comes from the actual red lines that were drawn on the maps when the government. So, okay, let's back up. So we're talking about right after the Great Depression. So this is the early 1930s, actually 1933, when FDR created the Homeowners Loan Corporation to help all the individuals who were about to lose their homes through the foreclosure due to not having any money. So the Homeowners Loan Corporation, which eventually turned into the Federal Housing Association, they were offering bridge loans, and they did quite a few things. They helped very, very many people. I mean, over 1 million people saved their houses. So they did some great things for those 1 million people. However, comma space, not many of those people that they helped look like you and I, but you know, I guess it just be like that sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But part of their methodology when deciding who would get these bridge loans or who would get government assistance or not is they would look at the different areas, cities, towns, whatever, and they would say, they would mark the areas safe to risky, and they would mark them with the letters A, B, C, or D, you know, like letter grades. And D obviously was the worst, and because I only went to D. And so with the D areas, they will mark with an actual red line, and you can check it out on Google. I'm sure you'll see some maps or something like that out there already. I'm positive. And just as a side note, I thought it was kind of interesting that back at the crib, you know, there's a train, the red line that would roll right by my crib all the time, and that actually was like the dividing line that separates east side from, I guess you could say, the west side of Chicago. Because yes, for those of y'all who don't think there is, I believe there is an east side of Chicago, because once you go past state, you are east. That's all it is to it. You are east. So whatever, get over it. But yeah, so there is there's an east side, there's a west side, and then we have the red line train, which separates the two sides. So I just thought that was kind of ironic. But anyway, getting back to the point, they were literally marking black and other minority neighborhoods as high risk, which is just a nice way of saying, will we give these guys loans?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And in the meantime, white families were given low interest, government-backed mortgages through the GI Bill and the FHA. And it's just so ironic because, like, at the same time, you've heard Dr. King say this, and he said this, 30 years later, but
it's a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And many Negroes, by the thousands and millions, have been left bootless as a result of all of these years of oppression and as a result of a society that deliberately made his color a stigma and something worthless and degrading.
At the same time, the government is telling us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. They was out there handing out whole boots, laces, steel-toe reinforcements, everything you need to the white folks. I don't know. I mean, at least that's the way it looked. I'm just saying. So in comes Levittown, right? Now, if you want a prime example of redlining in action, look no further than Levittown, New York. This is America's first mass-produced suburban community. Built in the 1940s, Levittown was a cookie-cutter, assembly line suburb that promised affordable housing for future World War II vets. But there was just one problem. The Levitt family, and you can, whatever. I'm gonna just start off before we even get too deep into it. The name Levitt isn't even like an American quote unquote name. It's one of them other people's name. And to know that one of them other people who already like the word ghetto actually comes from how they were treated and the places where they were and all that stuff, and somehow somebody from that lineage is like, you know what? Nah, not us, them. It's like it's weird. It's like in America there seems to be and I know I'm getting ahead of myself, so I apologize now. But in America there seems to be there's always a one-upping of the next level of minorities that come into the country. It seems that way. It seems like if you look at a lot of the Latinos who have recently voted in a recent election, who are now whose relatives are now getting booted out or whatever, no ill will, whatever towards them, but you got a lot of them were doing that based on at least from the outside, because nobody told me when I asked last time, like what was they telling y'all? Were they giving y'all good information? Or were they telling you something different than they were telling us? Because they were telling us they was going to deport y'all anyway. But but it's like they came in being and just incredulously voting Republican and trying to be like the staunchest of the staunch when it came to being a Republican, because that to them was the whitest you could be. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of them started identifying as being Republicans, so that way it's almost like, hey, I'm one of you. Don't get me. Look, I hate them too. Look. Let's both work to get rid of them. You know what I'm saying? So it seems like there's always that. There's always a new minority that comes in and whose job it is to kind of prove to the white men in America that, hey, we also don't like black people. So let's also find reasons to not like them or to exclude them and preclude them from some sort of service that normal Americans should have, like healthcare. But getting back to the point, the Levitt family, the developers, had a strict whites-only policy written into their home contracts. No black families allowed. So even though black veterans had fought in the same war, risked their lives for the same country, and were theoretically entitled to the same benefits when they got home, they were systematically, heard that word? Excluded from this new wave of home ownership. See what I'm saying? And this wasn't just a racist developer's whim. This was the FHA itself that refused to insure the loans for black buyers in Levittown and many other suburbs. And when black families tried to move in, they were met with mobs, threats, and homeowners associations that would rather burn down a house than have a neighbor in it. Than have a black neighbor in it. Let me get that right. Oh, they'll have a neighbor, no problem. Oh, what's that black guy doing there? They're gonna. What are they gonna do? Just whip it out and just make the whole neighborhood dark, huh? Sorry, y'all. Sorry, y'all. My bad. Let me put my robe on, y'all. I'm sorry. Put on my robe. Like, is that what y'all thinking? I think right here is where you're supposed to insert your clip of, or your favorite clip of a black family getting treated poorly because of their race. Right here, explaining to your Republican, but not that kind of Republican friend that, yeah, systemic racism is and was a thing. But I digress. And while that policy didn't last for long, it still had quite a few outstretching residual effects, in that Levittown wasn't the only town that did this. I mean, you had tons of Levittowns that did this, up to and including, was it 1968? I mean, look, okay. Fast forward to today, the racial wealth gap still exists because of policies like this. You know what I'm saying? Where they have it written into the contracts, into the actual homeowner, home buying policy, that you can't sell it to another person who is black. It was written into the contract. You can't sell your home to a black person. You can't rent it to a black person. You can't lease it to a black person. You can't anything, nothing. Black, don't do it, because don't do it. So over this time, you get years and years, decades and decades of that. You've got white people who are able to continually progress within a system where they're able to buy. No barriers to entry other than finance. And they can figure that out by getting a loan or getting finding a loan program that will support them. So there was always something in a lot of cases. I won't say always something, but there was something in many cases that would help white people much quicker than it would black people. That's just the fact of it, right? So white families were able to buy homes, build equity, and pass down generational wealth, while black families were largely locked out of the biggest wealth building opportunity in American history. So look, next time somebody tells you that racism is in the past, man. It's in the past. Why you worried about old stuff, man? It's just the past, man. Remind them that redlining wasn't outlawed until 1968. Again, Levittown, now them and their contracts, I think they were, their policies and contracts were very short-lived. So I think Levittown's contracts were outlawed in 1940 something. So it was about a decade that they stayed in effect. However, like I said, that wasn't the only place that this has taken place. And even then, look, we're talking about it 1968, from 1930s to 1968. the damage was already done in that time. With the establishment of the Fair Housing Act, which prohibits the discrimination of housing based on color, race, religion, and sex, disability, and all that stuff. It's just wild that that's your stance now when that ain't where you started. And I'm a weirdo. I'm gonna let y'all know that right now. I'm a weirdo. I look at things from a very basic perspective. If you can't tell me that from your origins you were on the right path, then I'm always going to be questioning your movements. That's just how it is. So that's why it's hard for me to take a lot of religions seriously, because a lot of religions didn't give a damn about black folks. A lot of them, most of them, didn't give a damn about black folks. So for people to say, oh, this is my religion, they let black people in 1980, they let black people in this time. Okay, I mean, that's cool if you cool with it now. You know, I thought God was thought God made everybody. So you cool with it? Anyway, I don't want to go down that path, but I'm just saying it makes it interesting, or I should just say it just makes it weird for me to look at people aligning themselves with certain dogma or certain dogmatic ideologies where they're saying that this is what they stand for and this is what they believe in, while at the same time it's shown that from the beginning they were not about you. So it's weird that the Fair Housing Act that was established in 1968, that they are the ones who outlawed redlining when, well, hell, initially they supported it. Oh, we changed our name to the FHA. We're not the HOLC anymore, so we're a different organization now. And look, Levittown wasn't just a suburb. It was a blueprint for segregation disguised as the American dream. And they weren't nearly alone. Just a quick search for restrictive covenants in the East Coast. Restrictive covenants, I apologize, a little late in the game, but restrictive covenants were the contracts that said you can't sell your house to black people. So if you just look up restrictive covenants on the East Coast alone, you'll pull up Garden City, East Meadow, and Valley Stream, all in New York, right? And speaking of, you know who else is from there? One president we currently have. Sorry. One president we currently have who's been obviously shot in the ear. And do you know what he's been accused of? Tons of things. But in this regard, he's been accused of some of those same restrictive covenants. And look, I'll just leave a link to this article for y'all to check out if you want, but it basically outlines what we all run the risk of losing if there is no more FHA department. Like I said, I don't necessarily hate it or completely don't trust it, but I am going to be looking at the whole thing with a side eye. I ain't gonna lie. But the fact is, redlining wasn't just about denying loans. It was about denying futures, keeping you and your babies poor, keeping me and mine poor, keeping all us subjugated, walking around, pass and go, paying rent, repeat. And while they erase the red lines on the map, the effects are still visible in who owns property, where people live, and why wealth is distributed the way that it is today. But I figured since we had just talked about housing in the last episode, I didn't really get into restrictive covenants. I didn't really get into Levittown or the impact directly on black people, especially with this being Black History Month. So I just need to do a better job. And hopefully this is my effort in doing that. But with that being said, this has been your boy Seven. Let me know what y'all think about restrictive covenants. Have you seen any? Because I've heard that some actually still exist. There's no law to enforce them, but in some states and some cities, they're still on the books. So, but what are your thoughts about restrictive covenants? Let me know in the comments below. And please spread this with your people. Share this with your people. Oh man, yeah, again, I'm still getting over the flu. Y'all gotta forgive me. But that's it for today. from your boy 7. Y'all be safe out there. Peace. And I'm out.